Psalm 23. We love Psalm 23. Believers love Psalm 23. Unbelievers love Psalm 23. Believing unbelievers love Psalm 23. What I mean by believing unbelievers, those people that want to pick and choose what part of God makes us the most comfortable, what part of God we like, what gels with us, what works for us, but we don't really want to go all the way with God. Now, when we think about Psalm 23, there is a universal ownership of the text. It's very popular. People love the text. It makes us feel good. We like this aspect of God that provides for us, that gives us everything that we need. The aspect of God that prepares a table before us in the presence of our haters and our enemies. We like that God. But listen, there is something that we must understand about this psalm. It is embedded in the first verse of the chapter. The Lord is my shepherd. In Hebrew, it is Adonai Rohi Lo Exar. The interesting thing about this verse is usually when the Jews wanted to pray as a collective, instead of saying my, they would say our. So for us to come to a text where the writer is saying Adonai Rohi Lo Exar, it's like, it's me. This is my experience with God. I'm not trying to present God in a universal way. I am presenting this God in a personal way. This is quite intriguing and very intentional because throughout scriptures, especially from the book of Genesis, I think Genesis 46, when Moses is speaking about God, he speaks about God as the shepherd of Israel. Right? This now becomes a consistent depiction of God throughout the Bible. When Jesus comes in the New Testament, he describes himself as the good shepherd. Now, this is a key way the Lord is portrayed in relation with the people of Israel. He's described as their shepherd. But when you come to chapter 23, David describes God as his shepherd. And what that means is, this is my shepherd. So I must understand that there is a universal expression of God as a shepherd, and there is a personal expression of God as a shepherd. And that is what this text is focusing on. It is emphasizing the personal shepherding of God. Now, when I understand this, it now helps me to realize that shepherd in the entire chapter is not for everybody. Yes, you heard that right. It is not for everybody. Not everyone can read Psalm 23 and experience the impact of the words as a person that has come to accept God as his or a shepherd. So what does that mean? You must first understand what a shepherd does. Who is a shepherd to the sheep? How or what is the relationship between a shepherd and a sheep? If you go back to the first thing that I said, or one of the first things I said this text is embraced by unbelievers and unbelievers. Now, a true believer is not someone that only goes to church. A true believer is not only someone that prays or someone that studies the scripture. A true believer is one that walks with the Lord. And what it means to walk with the Lord is submitting the leadership of my life to the shepherd. So the shepherd determines where I go. The shepherd determines what I do, determines where I end up, determines everything that has to do with my life. Now, this concept is better understood when you study the life of a shepherd and a sheep or his flock. Let me give you a quick analogy. When I was doing a study on the pasture, which we see in verse 2 or verse 3, I was studying the green pasture, and I realized that the green pasture is a location. It is a place in Israel, right, where shepherds take their flock for feeding. Prior to this time, I used to think that green pasture was a luscious place. It was green, everything was perfect, like this place where there is rain and the plants are green, the grasses are green, and there is no iota of suffering whatsoever. That is what I always thought about, and I don't think that I'm the only one. You probably thought about it that way, right? But I was amazed to see that the green pasture looked nothing like a green pasture. What the green pasture actually looked like was a desert. It looked like a dry place. I put myself in that scene and I realized that if I was in that space, I will not even consider that place a green pasture. I will not even consider it a place where the sheep or my flock could feed from. But I'm looking at this place that looks like a dry, dead land, and it is called a green pasture. So, what makes it a green pasture? I step back and I recognize that the shepherd understand that the water, which is not so far from that area, carries moisture. The wind carries moisture from the water, and the moisture would land on the ground in that area. Now, when the moisture lands on the ground in that area, it starts to cause some plants to sprout from the rocks, in between the rocks on the ground. So there are some areas where, you see more grasses than the other. And I realized that the shepherd know these things enough to identify the areas where their sheep or their flock can feed from properly. I get what I'm saying? If the shepherd knows where to go to, if he knows how to lead the sheep, if he knows where the food is, then it must mean that the sheep now depend on the shepherd's leading to know exactly what to eat and where to feed from. Because if they were on their own, they would have to struggle with every other animal there, or perhaps they wouldn't even know where to eat from. They wouldn't know where to go to. But their survival depends on their following the shepherd. So I have to follow the shepherd to eat properly. I have to follow the shepherd to know where to go and what to do. I have to follow the leading of the shepherd, because now my life is literally in the hands of the shepherd. Now, understanding this gave me a very different perspective of Psalm 23. It made me realize that for me to say that the Lord is my shepherd, I must think, know, understand, and realize that I don't have a random relationship with God. I cannot call the Lord my shepherd if I have not given him the rulership of my life. If I have not relinquished leadership to him, then I can't call him my shepherd. And if I can't call God my shepherd, then I can't say that he's my shepherd, I will lack nothing. The only way I can have all that I need, not all that I think I need, not all that I think I deserve, but what I really need according to his judgment. The shepherd knows what the sheep needs. He knows everything that is required for the sheep. So if I go back and I'm reading the text, Adonai Rohi Lo Eksa Binot Desheya Betsani, it means that I have relinquished rulership and leadership of my life over to the Lord. And because he leads, he controls, he is in charge of my life, everything that I need, he provides for. And based on that understanding, everything else in Psalm 23 starts to fall in place. So again, even though this text is the most beloved, it is not just a text or a writing that was given to make us feel good about God. No, it is both a promise and a request. The Lord is saying, if you would let me be your shepherd, I will give you all that you need, not all that you think you need, not all that you think you deserve, but all that I know you need. So the next time you read Psalm 23, remember this: the Lord is my shepherd only when I decide to become his sheep. The Lord will be shepherd to me only when I relinquish leadership to his wisdom. I hope this blesses you. Have a good day. Bye.